Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Messages. And we are going to talk about doubt today. This is something that I have been tangled up in for a few days, and I have finally come out of it. So I have all sorts of nuggets of goodness for you. And I really think that this is something that the vast majority, if not all of you, can resonate with. So this should be fun. Now, if you've been on Earth for any length of time, then you probably have experienced disappointment. People failing you, not following through on what they say they're going to do, dropping their integrity, things not going your way, things not working out, etc., etc., etc. However, if you have been in creation mode, if you have been in a manifestation practice or anything of the sort, you know that leaning into that energetic pattern is not something that is helpful in any way, shape, or form. And what we actually want to put our energy behind fully and hold conviction and certainty in is that things are working out the way that you ideally want them to go, even if they look a little bit different. You may have heard the expression, "Don't tie God's hands behind his back." And that essentially means don't slam all of the doors, don't close yourself off from the infinite ways that things can get to you, right? So we know all of this. This is basic energetic stuff that if you've been around for any length of time, you will know this. You will know this, you will know this, you will know this. This is basic energetic manifestation 101. And while this is something that is just basic, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily easy in the beginning. Now, I don't want to plant seeds and say, oh, this is going to be hard and intense labor. No. Anytime I talk about diligence or consistency or practice, I'm not talking about force. I'm talking about ease. I'm talking about softening. I'm talking about getting your energy a little bit closer to where you want it to be, even if it's difficult in the beginning. So generally, the first layer of this, if you're healing from trauma, this is just an example. If you're healing from trauma, then the first step would be you want to go to the nervous system, because if the nervous system is dysregulated, if it's a hot mess, then that's more than likely going to be driving your thoughts until you are able to regulate the nervous system and then do all of the other fun stuff that you actually want to dive into regarding manifestation. But the nervous system is number one. That is the bread and butter that you want to lean into. So you do these things, you get a little bit better, you're feeling better, you're regulating yourself, you practice, things are getting better and easier and smoother. Then you start to weave in conscious creation, conscious intentional manifestation, where you are actually directing the show with your mind. Because the mind is the most powerful tool that you have, really. It's the liaison between the spirit world and the material world. And so if you don't have your mind under control, if you're not training it, it's going to run amok. And what I say in Money Magic is that when you're in this process, we have this activity called mental mold that I teach in part 1. And I describe it as being mental mold because if you leave it alone, it will grow back and it'll grow back fast. And so you have to be on top of your shit. You have to be on top of your mind, and it is a wild horse that wants to be broken. It does. You want it to be broken. Your soul wants to get a hold of that wild horse so that you can start steering the ship in the direction that you want it to go. I am mixing too many analogies, but we're just going to roll with it. Now, I taught the second part of Money Magic. When did I host that? It was April 30th. I ran that. And during that class, I invited everyone in the container to be super intentional with their money experience in May. And we declared it that it would be Money Magic May, which is great. However, as the teacher, as the person who's actually holding space for these transformations inside of this container and people improving their experiences with money, I cannot drop the ball for myself or for anyone else. when you decide that you are going to teach something, you will get heavy, intense lessons on that topic because it is where all of your codes, wisdom, and insight come from. And so if you say, oh, I want to teach, well, then you're going to be calling in the experiences that are going to make you a master teacher. So I'm just giving you a fair warning. If there's anything that you say, I want to teach this, I want to know this, I want to become an expert at this, okay, well, you're going to call in those experiences that are going to push you into that position and support you in the unfolding of that part of your soul. So me, with my big, bright ideas of what I want to teach, I decided, we're going to do the second part of Money Magic. And I'm also going to invite everyone else to do this work, which means that I have to lead myself through all of my financial experiences that come up in May. I have to be 10 times as conscious as I would normally be. Although generally my obsession with lazy money is what I call it. Just being lazy, making money, relaxing, staying in receiving mode, letting it be effortless, letting money come to me endlessly, flowing in money. Okay, so this is the general energy that I'm playing with. In May, however, what was being reflected back to me in the 3D is a drought, which is unsurprising because I'm supposed to be teaching this stuff, right? And so if I'm not in integrity with my practices, then I'm going to fall victim to what the 3D is reflecting back to me. And I knew going into May that May was going to be an extremely financially expansive month for me. And there were all sorts of financial edges that were coming up for myself. And I knew this. I knew this going into May. So let me walk you through what happened at the very beginning of the month. Okay. May 1st comes around. I know, okay, Money Magic May, diving into money work. And my ego is kicking. She is alive and well. I call her Jessica, if you're new around here. So Jessica has 50,000 things that she wants me to do. She has 50,000 things that she wants me to think, that she wants me to buy into. She's very concerned. She thinks we're foolish. She doesn't think we're going to be able to pull it off. She thinks that miracles are a crock of shit. And just because I've had them before doesn't mean I can make them happen again. Just because I've pulled money out of thin air before doesn't mean it can happen again. And starts throwing endless doubt in my face. Doubt thought after doubt thought after doubt thought after doubt thought. That is the only mode that she was in, and that is the only thing that she could conjure up. And here's the thing. Jessica is practical and she is critical to a fault, right? So some criticism is really, really helpful, where it's something that can lead to improvement. It can lead to things getting better and better. It's a source of desire in a certain way, right? And I'm speaking to myself, like when I'm criticizing what I'm doing in a way that is constructive. But this was different. This was bullying energy that was happening inside of myself, and I was watching it happen. I was watching myself be presented with all of this doubt from Jessica. And the thing is, when you do this work long enough, you really start to see everything super clearly. You know when to not take the bait. You can observe your thoughts without necessarily buying in or feeling feelings just because the thought comes up. I can have lots of thoughts come up, but not engage with them emotionally. And that's a muscle that I've built over time, right? So this is exactly what anxiety is. If you have anxiety, it's your brain telling you something bad is going to happen in the future, and you need to feel a certain way about it so that you can do something now that is going to change the outcome. This is energetically backwards. This is the opposite of what you want to be doing. Because we know that if you're operating from a space of something bad is going to happen, you're going to be behaving in a way where something bad will happen because that's the energy that you're holding in your body. That is what you are magnetically pulling in from the quantum field. And so it is. God will say yes. God is neutral. So if you are doubting your creatorship and all you can focus on is bad things, bad things, bad things, and then all of your actions are lining up with bad things happening, and then something bad happens and you say, see, I told you, I knew that was going to happen. Yeah, you created it. You created it. You did that. You got it in your mind, you believed it, you felt the feelings, you believed the thoughts, you went into the stories, you lined up all of your actions behind it, you watered that plant, you watered that plant, you watered that plant, you watered that plant, and as I describe it, it turns into a shit bush. So you need to stop watering the shit bushes. And when this was happening to me internally, because again, this is a muscle. If you are totally unconscious to what is happening in the mental body, if you're unconscious to your creatorship, this is how we get sucked into doing the same pattern again and 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 never getting off of the hamster wheel, because it is a muscle that is so practiced. And because you are super powerful, if you are not training yourself, if you are not on top of it, then it's going to start running you. And that's the last thing that you want, because you're powerful. You're powerful. And a lot of people deny that because they're on the hamster wheel, right? So the whole point of doing any of this work is getting off of the hamster wheel. Now, when this was happening in my mind, Jessica saying all of these things, trying to coax me into acting from that place, I would immediately come back to no, I am not putting my energy behind this. She might be presenting contrast. She might be presenting stories of the past. She goes into my past experiences where there's all these red file folders. She pulls one out and says, look, here, here, and here. This is all the evidence that you need. It's a done deal. This is absolutely certain. You're going to fail at this. Bad things are going to happen. You should be very concerned. And the thing is, even if what she's saying is true, what would frantic action do for me? Nothing. It would burn me out. I wouldn't feel good. I wouldn't be getting anything done. I would probably just be finding myself in some compulsive behavior, like chronically checking emails or posting things that I don't want to post or behaving in a way that I don't want to behave. And that is just not necessary. If you have frantic, scattered action that is completely driven from fear, scarcity, and anxiety and doubt that you're not going to receive, I mean, that's a one-way ticket to hell in my book, at least at this level in the game. In the beginning, in the healing stage, it's more important to process emotions, regulate your nervous system, things like that. What I'm talking about isn't quite as important when you're in the thick of healing. So just keep that in mind as well. This doesn't mean that if you have scary thoughts that all of them are going to come to life. That's not how it works. What I'm talking about is the compound effect of your thoughts, words, and actions being exclusively behind the doubtful thought that you're being presented with by your ego or, you know, the nervous system interpretation, right? It's not the thoughts that are bad. It's lining up all of my actions and everything that I'm saying and everything that I'm doing and all of my energy behind the doubtful thought. That is the piece. That is the space that I was being confronted with. And I knew for myself that's not how it was going to go. I already declared that May was going to be one of the greatest financial months yet. I made that declaration in Money Magic, and so it is. Right? I know that to be true, but my energetic system needs to be on board with that truth as often as humanly possible, because this is a practice. It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily never going to be presented with doubt, but the less resistance I can hold within my system, the faster it will come, the faster I'll receive the things that I desire, the more alignment I'll experience, and things will get increasingly better and better and better. The other interesting thing that I know to be true about desires and creation and all of this work that we do is that ignoring your desires and trying to brush them off to the side and stuff them in the closet doesn't actually work. So a lot of the time, people will do this as a way to cope or avoid disappointment. They'll say, well, I just won't want anymore. I just won't ask for things. I just won't desire anything anymore. Well, how's that working out? Is that really working for you? Is that really effective? Do you think that's going to carry you very far into the future? No, of course not. You can't shield yourself from negative emotion. And the more that you stuff your desires in the closet, the louder they're going to get. They're going to start screaming at you. And you know what happens when your desires start screaming? You experience pain. You experience pain. That's how that works. So if you feel the pulse of your desire or the pulse of pain getting greater and greater and greater, it's because you have to bring them into the fold of your experience. Like giving yourself permission to either allow them in, take action that puts you in alignment with them. I see this all the time with clients, and I went through this season of clients where all they would experience was they're ignoring their desires, they're in pain, and the pain gets worse because they're ignoring their desires until their circumstances eventually push them out. So this is how a lot of people get fired from jobs, or they have something shift that makes it even more uncomfortable, or the roommate that you can't stand gets even worse and worse and worse because you've just been ignoring what you really want to do. And a lot of this stems from doubt, fear, and avoidance of disappointment. But the thing is, that isn't sustainable. Letting fear and doubt be what drives the car, I can tell you right now that that is a one-way ticket to Pain City. Because the farther you drift away, the true expression of your soul is to create. That's what we're all doing here. We are creating and creating and creating, and then we want more, and then we create more, and we desire more, and we create more, and it's the evolution of life. Your desires and your willingness to allow them in is what creates universes, right? You think about you're a fragment of God, okay? The gift that you were given is your ability to create. You have the body that you have. The game board is set. You have the life that you're experiencing in this moment. Okay, now play. Play where you're at. So this is the challenge for the vast majority of people, right? Instead of playing your hand where you are, you talk about why your hand isn't good and you're never going to win and you want to get off this game board and this isn't going to work and bad hand, bad hand, bad hand. And that's it. And so you create more of that until one day you wake up to, maybe I should start doing something different. So it doesn't have to get to that point, but I'm just telling you the path of pain, that's usually how it works. It opens you up to remembering that creating and desiring and creating and desiring and creating and desiring is a much more optimal experience than not wanting and suffering, or not having any desires and cutting yourself off from what your heart truly wants, which is things like freedom and love and abundance and whatever it is that your values are and what you crave in your soul. Denying that is just never going to work. It's just never going to work. I mean, you can go your whole life that way, but then you're going to do a life review once you pass beyond the veil. And you're going to have to do this shit all over again. So you may as well just cut to the chase and start creating now. Start putting your energy, moving your energy in the direction that you actually want to unfold as soon as you can. And again, the exception would be if you're in deep trauma, right? This doesn't mean that we can't process emotions. Emotions are so important to our experience, tending to the body, so important to the human experience. And emotions inform you. They inform you of your desires. They inform you of what you like, what you don't like. And it's not something to be ashamed of or try to cut yourself off from. Because if you didn't have emotions, then well, there would be no point in creating anything because there would be nothing to feel. The whole reason why you're creating is for more good feelings. Why do you want money? Because it feels good. Why do you want a lover? Because it feels good. Because love is good and connection feels good. Why do you want friends? Because it feels good to laugh and have fun and play and go places and do things and have a good time. Because that's the childlike joy that we get to tap back into. So if you understand that feelings are creative and feelings are what we want more of, and the pesky ego is going to fill your brain or present to your brain every reason why you should not want these things, why you should shield yourself, why you should protect yourself and act from self-preservation rather than the true longing of your heart, then you also understand that working on your feeling state is probably the best investment that you can make in yourself, is feeling good, surrounding yourself with high quality people and mentors and teachers, and just immersing yourself in the energy that you would like to create more of by any means necessary, short of harming others. Okay, just throwing that out there for you sociopaths who might be listening. So here is what I did with Jessica when she started telling me all of these things, is I made an agreement to myself that I would not do anything when she was in the driver's seat. And what I started to do was every time she would flare up and get really loud and really cranky and in my ear and was very, very convincing, a lot of the time she has a lot of things to say and it's all quote unquote evidence-based, right? I would have to go into some type of meditative state. So it may have been self-care, right? It can look like exercise, that I need to burn a lot of energy. Mars and Leo can't do without that. Or it would be straight meditation where I would redirect my mind, even if it's just something like going back to the breath, getting her to shut up. Again, I'm tender with her, but also very firm. She's not going to boss me around either. So don't bully your ego. Remember, they have a job. They have a role. They're important. It's not like you want to be cruel to them because that's also a part of yourself. So don't do that. You can be tender and firm at the same time. This is the whole idea of reparenting yourself. You want to hold both nurturing and a level of boundaries and discipline within yourself. So I was aware of her, I was listening to her, I knew all of the things that she had to say, but I would redirect the energy. Because here's the thing, being presented with an unhelpful thought and going through all of the emotions of that does not serve you. That's not emotional processing, and I want to be really clear about that. Emotional processing is when someone says something really hurtful to you and it brings up a whole bunch of feelings that remind you of your mom when she did this, that, and the other thing. That type of emotional processing is completely different. This is mental chatter. Think about how many thoughts you have in a day. A lot. You have a lot of thoughts in a day. So if you were to go on an emotional roller coaster with every single thought, if your mind is running you, then that's just not constructive. And the vast majority of the time, if you really listen to your ego and you observe it, you will notice that it's extremely repetitive. It has the same thing to say again and again and again and again. And that's, again, it's just a waste. It's wasted energy a lot of the time. And so learning how to speak to yourself with compassion and boundaries is one of the best tools and skills that you can develop. So I basically immersed myself in nothing but self-care mindset tools, whatever I had. So I did mental mold journaling, which is, I teach that in Money Magic. Did that. Exercise, meditation. I just went all in on getting my head straight. That's my one job. And when I made that my one job, she got quieter and quieter and quieter. So now the mental chatter isn't nearly what it was at the beginning of the month. It has, let's say it took me like a solid 4 or 5 days to get her really under control. She was very active at the beginning of the month. So once I shifted out of this, then I started doubling down on the content that I was consuming. I completely cleaned up my content. If it made me feel like shit, I'm not consuming it. I'm not watching it. I'm not having the conversation, right? It doesn't matter if it's a friend. If it's a friend who's having a conversation that I don't want to have, then I'm not having that conversation. Some people might find that to be really cold, but that is the level of dedication that I had to myself and to my feeling state. And I had to have that because this period of time is very important for me and I need to keep my energy really, really clean. So I can't have very much clutter in my field right now. There might be some times when I have the capacity to really hold and reflect and all of that stuff, but this was taking a lot of my energy and I needed to dedicate myself to it. So I just wanted to clear that up. I should also mention at this time, my behavior was very counterintuitive to what most people would recommend or the knee-jerk reaction, what that would be. And let me be clear, this is obviously going to apply differently if you do have a 9-to-5 or a job that you have to show up for. Consider this, if I were working a 9-to-5, I would be doing the same things that I'm doing. It would just look like different hours of the day that I would be doing it in. So eventually I ended up consuming only things that made me feel really, really good. Music that I loved, people that made me feel good, whether it be a podcast or whatever. I just filled my space with feel-good things, optimism. And the thing is, for a moment there, I wasn't actually able to conjure up where I wanted to put my energy. And so one of the things that's really helpful is finding someone who could potentially supplement that for me through positive input, through healthy reflections of things that I wanted reflected back to me so that I could get on that energetic vibration. And that is something that can help me adjust and shift until I can fully gain momentum myself. So that was my strategy because I found myself in quite a hole that I was moving out of. So that is the process that I underwent. Now, I think that most people under these circumstances would say, well, if you need something, which we can talk about need another time and why that word really should be completely banished from your vocabulary. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here, but it's not a good energy to sit in, right? Has that desperation cologne sprayed all over it. But I would not work. So during this time, I absolutely refused to work, force myself to make content. Nope. Not writing sales pages, not doing anything. Nothing. I was only doing things that felt really good. I understand that this is somewhat of a luxury that I've cultivated based on just the way my work is now. However, that was really key for me. No action that I took was something that felt forced or that I was scaring myself into doing, because I was very clear I did not want that coded into any of my action. I didn't want the pulse of fear to come alive in anything that I was touching. So I completely went hands off. And I'll be honest, because I do love working, it was very nerve-wracking for me to just let my hands off the wheel and let myself do whatever I wanted to do, because I was worried that the desire and impulse to work wouldn't return. And that was the element that I really had to relinquish control around, is this idea that if I stop working, I'm never going to do anything ever again. Or if I let myself go full force into feeling good and making that the focus, that, well, what if my business bottoms out because I'm not, doing these silly practical things that I think matter? Because I hate to break it to you, but a lot of them don't. So once I relaxed and I finally calmed down, I started to realize that the worst case scenario that I had in my mind wasn't actually that big of a deal. I was like, you know what? Even if that were to happen, it's a non-issue. It's not something I couldn't bounce back from. It's not something that would ruin my life. It's not something that would destroy me. It's not anything that I couldn't dust myself off from. None of that. It really wasn't a big deal. Just the more and more that I allowed myself to just present it simply so I could diffuse it. Because a lot of the time, if you ever look at the worst case scenario of anything, the thing that you're actually avoiding is just the bad feeling. And I know I've said this before, but it's true. Anytime you think about something scary, it's like, well, I would feel ashamed, or I would feel embarrassed, or I would feel rejected, or I feel like I would be in so much pain that I don't want to live, right? Those things, of course, to the physical body, to the emotional body, that's a really terrifying prospect. But when you start to diffuse these things and look at, oh, it's just the bad feelings really that I'm trying to avoid, it's just temporary bad feelings, and then potentially retelling myself that bad story of that scary thing that might happen, you start to realize things are less and less of a big deal. And again, this is another practice. This is something that happens over time. This is something that you cultivate within yourself. And Jessica shows me scary things sometimes. You know, she'll bring up an image or, ooh, look at that. Look at this big block of moldy cheese. Doesn't that look scary? Wouldn't it be horrible if you ate that? And I'm like, yes, Jessica, that would be terrible if I had to eat that. I'm really not interested in that. Please put the moldy cheese down. Please put it down. I am not interested in eating moldy cheese, so there's no reason for you to be picking up moldy cheese and putting it in my face and making a big deal out of it and having me plan a whole meal with it. Just don't. Just don't. There's no need. So then something really interesting happened. I went into meditation one day and I was, consulting the guides, asking for guidance and saying, okay, well, I'd like to work. I'd like to do things or put something out, so what's next? What do I do? 'Cause I like to take action. It's not that I don't do any of that, but I was also kind of getting bored. And the message that I received was actually, no, you need to be meditating every day. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll listen to that because there's no point in taking frantic action that doesn't feel good. And so I started meditating every day, shifting myself into bliss, shifting myself into feelings that feel good, getting all of my energy on board with that. And the most unique experience I've ever had happened, which is I have wanted a mastermind. I've wanted to run a mastermind of a very unique style for over a year. This has been on my, desire list of something that I want to create. And I wasn't even planning on launching it for, at least a while. I thought I was in my left brain as far as, I need to do this and then I need to do that and it needs to be all structured. But one night I was meditating and feeling good and everything was awesome. And then I just decided to start creating. Like, it wasn't even work. It was just exciting action that I was taking because it felt good. And then the more I did that, the better I felt and the more excited that I got. And I was feeling into the women who are coming into this container and all of the awesome exercises and meditations and healing sessions and divination readings, and I was just cultivating all of this energy for this container, and I was feeling the expansion and the excitement of all of the souls that are just going to skyrocket from this container that I've created. And I was so excited that I worked for hours and hours and hours in a flash. It didn't even feel like effort because I was so excited and the energy was so potent that I just couldn't stop myself. It was just pouring out of me. And the other interesting thing is I wasn't even planning on writing a sales page or anything like that. I was just going to put an application up, but all of this stuff just started pouring out of me like nobody's business. And that was it. It was born. It's like she came through. Eden is the name of the mastermind. Eden came through and demanded. She was like, I am coming down tonight, whether you like it or not. There's nothing you're going to do about it. Make me. Make me. And I did. And that was it. And so all of a sudden, from this feeling good state, I just organically was able to work effortlessly for hours. And I'm like, this is something I can do. This is something I can get behind. This is something that I want to recreate. And so I've been making this my practice where I essentially will just sit in meditation until I am compelled by God to move, or compelled by the excitement and the energy to create the next creation, to do the next thing, to make the next move. But I made an agreement with myself that I would not force anything. There are things that I hold my integrity around, right? It doesn't mean that if I don't want to show up for a client, I'm not going to, and that's too damn bad, right? Because I deeply care about my work and I care about my integrity and I care about the people that I serve. All of that is true at the same time. But when it came to content, when it came to my work, or even something like recording this podcast, I have to love it. I have to love it. I have to feel so good and so excited and so overflowing that this just pours out organically. It's not something that I can force, and I can't fight my way into making good content. I just can't. I tried that, been there, done that, doesn't work. So anyway, after I launched the mastermind, which was literally just a few Instagram story panels, I immediately had people coming through and started applying. And it was fantastic. It was so effortless, and I know that people could feel me in the Instagram story panels, and it was just the most delicious, orgasmic experience of my entire life. I was dancing, I was writing, I was imagining, I was daydreaming about all of these juicy things that are going to happen. It was magnificent. It was magnificent. And this container doesn't even start until July. So not only that, but I have this abundance of time where the right souls will be led into this container, and it's just going to be kick ass on all levels. And so now I don't even, it's so strange because I've completely stopped caring about, you know, the who, the what, the when. I'm just so excited to tell people about my writing process that I had. Like, that has been the thing that was most magical to me more than anything else. It's not even about anything else. It's just the excitement of birthing this thing that was just so epic and so cool, and the realization that all of this came through and there's nothing else like it on the market. Nothing. It is open road, baby. It's just me. It's just me. And it feels so good, and it's so amazing and so wonderful. And this is all overflow from me doing nothing but focusing on feeling good. That is it. That is it. That is my only piece in all of this, is you can say hello to your doubt, but don't believe your doubt. Process your emotions, but don't sit in your poopy diaper of emotions. You know, take care of yourself, tend to yourself, move the emotions, move your body, you know, grab onto something just a little bit easier, right? So even if you have a bad thought or something that doesn't feel good, that doesn't mean you start smacking yourself in the face with a shoe like Dobby. Bad Dobby! Bad Dobby! Don't do that. Don't do that. There's no I mean, you can. I don't recommend it, though. It's just not going to go well. It's going to make the problem worse. So anyway, all of this just to say, Commit to processing emotions, regulating your nervous system, feeling good, incorporating aligned things that you would like to embody more of, right? So when it comes to media and things that you consume, be conscious of your ego, but don't let it steer the ship for you. And know that the impulses of action that are aligned will come. They will come. If you're afraid you won't work, or that you won't make content, or that you won't apply to that job, or that you're not going to make that money if you don't act. Do. Fill the mind. Look at these spreadsheets. Do this mental math. That is not going to do anything for you. It's just going to stress you out. So as much as you can, in whatever circumstances or limitations you might have on your plate at the moment, see what happens when you just dedicate more energy to your feelings, more energy to the emotions that you're circulating, the energy that you're running, and see what happens. See what happens. It's not going to fail you. That is one thing I can promise you. You might chicken out. You might say, I need to do something, right? And then you fall back into that old pattern of overfunctioning. And then you don't feel good. And then you're going to get redirected back to your feeling state by any means necessary, whatever that might look like for you. Rinse and repeat until you go full-blown trust into what I'm describing, which is just feel good, and act from feeling good. Which is, it's scary, man. It's scary, I'll tell you that, but it works like a charm. So that is it, my loves. I am glad to be back, acting from feeling good and pleasure, riding this orgasmic wave as long as I can. And if you feel the call, the inspiration, the guidance to donate, the link is in the description box. It's in the show notes. If you would like to apply to Eden, the mastermind, you're more than welcome to. I'll leave a link in the show notes as well. If you want courses or meditations or prayer requests or anything of the sort, go to onyxhealing.com. I love you. I hope you're doing well. I hope this podcast has helped you, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.